On one recent stop, Kotiploof, Soweto, my visit coincided actually with ANC campaigners. And as I was speaking to a group of young people who were selling meat, one of them pointed to the ANC campaigners and said to me, "Skatele abo agrizi. We are tired of agrizis." This was a young man who was angry, who was frustrated. He knew instinctively, like the many millions in our country that had been robbed by the corruption of this government here that sits on my right. All what he desperately wanted was a government that could do the basics, a government that could keep the lights on, that could keep the taps running, help small businesses like his to succeed and help put young people to work. You've been watching this space as youth unemployment grew to include more than half of our young people. You've been watching this space as Eskom fell apart, threatening to plunge our country into a crisis we may never recover from. You've been watching this space as the Gupta leaks and the Zondo Commission showed how our country was being sold for a bribe pack, a few beers, and a Louis Vuitton bag. Throughout all of this, South Africans were hoping that something will happen, but nothing did. And judging by your track record, nothing will. You were content to watch as your party robbed us blind, especially in the dark. We are a state of big promises, we are a state of commissions, we are a state of task teams, we are a state of roadshows for every possible problem. But when it actually comes to doing the hard work, we're a state of no action. I'm sure you'd like to preside over a government that in fact gets things done. A government that in fact improves the lives of our people. But you don't. Across towns, across cities, across provinces, our state is being looted by your party. Kensi yabo Mabuza, yabo Muhumapelo, yabo Mahashule. That's the ANC that's in charge. And yes, it's the ANC of Jacob Zuma. That's who's in charge. We all know that the ANC disagrees with you on almost every policy, but I know you're not in charge. And because of this, all you can do is offer us a revision, while our country desperately needs a new vision for change. Mr. President, if you cannot even remove the corrupt from your own cabinet, from the Bosasa benches, then how dare do we as South Africans believe you when you say you are cleaning up government? When you speak of renewal, you don't speak of the renewal of South Africa, you speak of the renewal of your party. When you speak of unity, you don't speak of the unity of the people of South Africa, you speak of the unity of the African National Congress, which will come at the expense of the people of South Africa. Mr. President, the time of watching and summits has come and gone. What our people need is they need action, and they need action now. While those years may have been wasted in South Africa, they were certainly not wasted for the ANC. These were the golden years for the black, green, and gold. Everyone made money. Everybody got a security upgrade. Everyone got a new car. Everyone got new deals for their family members, tenders, shares, and positions on board. Even you and your own son benefited from Bosasa. You didn't arrive on the scene only a year ago. 8 times you had an opportunity to save our country from Mr. Jacob Zuma, and 8 times you voted to protect him. Your record will always reflect 100% behind Zuma, a man you describe as a very strong president. You were there when unemployment in this country grew and simply just grew. Today, 10 million of our people cannot find work. Today, 4 out of 10 adults in our country don't work. What worries me the most is that this morning's headlines say that, Mr. President, you were shocked when the lights went off. How could you have been shocked when you were there and you watched the destruction of Eskom?
Point of
You
order,
were there, Mr.
Honorable.
President. On the day of Sona, 57 people would have been killed in our country. On the day of Sona, 110 people, mainly vulnerable women, would have gone to a police station to say they were raped. On the day of Sona, 53 children under the age of 5 would have died. 3/4 of these children would have not seen their first birthday. Mr. President, this is 2019. We should not be speaking about these things. On the day of Sona, over 30 million South Africans who live below the poverty line would have even struggled to get the basics to survive. Bana ba rona bo abuti ba rona ba tla e ba robetse ka tlala on that night. On the day of Sona, 9.8 million South Africans didn't even get up to go to work because there is no work that they can go to. This is the part of our nation. These are the outsiders. These are the forgotten ones. This, Mr. President, is the true state of our nation. Honorable President, it doesn't need to be this way. You see, we in the DA have a dream of building one South Africa for all. And I want to tell you, we have a plan to achieve that dream. Because where we govern, we are already starting to build that South Africa. You see, while the rest of you talk, we are already doing. There's a good reason, Mr. President, why the Western Cape has an expanded unemployment rate of a full 11% below the next best province, which is Gauteng. There's a good reason why more than half the jobs created in South Africa in the past year came from the Western Cape. It's because, Mr. President, we understand what it takes to attract investment and create jobs. It's because we obsess and focus on growth and make sure jobs are created. We've identified agriculture and tourism as key job drivers in this province, and we focused our efforts on these sectors. Over the past 5 years, almost 27,000 jobs were added to tourism alone, and in the past 3 years, 750,000 more tourists visited Cape Town. The point I'm making here is that growth and investment don't happen by themselves. You don't just talk them into being, you do. You take action, and action now. You see, Mr. President, when you talk about cleaning up government, already we are doing. In the past year alone, Mayor Mashaba's administration in Johannesburg has already had 2,445 cases of fraud, corruption, theft, and maladministration investigated. I want to tell you the good news. Where the DA is in government, 85% of the municipalities here in the Western Cape already have laws in place that allow for independent solar energy generation. Most of them geared to sell energy back to the grid. These are the kind of solutions that we must be looking for to make our country energy secure and Eskom-proof. Mr. President, while you speak about replacing SOE boards, we in fact have gone. We want to make sure that our country becomes more adaptable in the supply of flexible energy. Cities should be capacitated to diversify their energy, and as much as possible to buy energy directly from IPPs. That's why we've taken your government to court on this issue. We aren't interested in preserving beleaguered SOEs like Eskom. We're only interested in delivering energy. In the city of Johannesburg, Mayor Mashaba's administration has already put 700 million rands towards capital expenditure in the recent budget. This money will be spent on electrification of informal settlement, upgrading council flats, and replacement of sewer lines. I want to tell you, in Tshwane, we inherited a deficit of over 1 billion rands, and in 1 year in office, we've already turned that into a surplus. Mr. President, when you talk about land reform and land restitution, we are already doing it. We don't have to change the constitution. All we need to ensure is that here in the Western Cape, all the title deeds that needed to be delivered have been delivered. And in the last decade, Already, Mr. President, 100,000 families have received title here in the Western Cape. Mo President, I want to tell you, that's what true freedom looks like. That's when people can leverage their assets so that they can pass them on to future generations. Imagine what we could do when we take over this country and give to more South Africans. Honorable President, our country needs action, but it must be the right action. You see, your party wants the state to be at the center of development. I want development to be revolved around the people of this country. That's why this May election is a referendum on this government. We cannot have another 5 years of unemployment, of load shedding and of hopelessness. We need a different change. And fellow South Africans, I am here to say that we can unite black, white, Indian and colored to usher in a change that this country so desperately needs. That change, Mr. President, can only come from the DA. I am the man in the arena, Mr. President, and I have an agenda to reform this country. It will be an agenda that will deliver the dignity to all South Africans. Our plan, Mr. President, is to put a job in every home. Our plan is to ensure that we champion entrepreneurs and micro-enterprise as heroes who fight unemployment. Our plan will make sure that the cities in this country are at the forefront of economic growth. Our plan will prioritize education for our children, not by giving them tablets, but by training each and every one of our teachers. Our plan will make sure that we have a small and efficient government where everyone who is implicated in wrongdoing cannot serve in cabinet, cannot serve in any legislature or in any parliament, Mr. President. We want to make sure that our civil servants are the most qualified, not those who are linked to your party as your policy of cadre deployment. I'm speaking about true change. And so, Mr. President, the most important moment on your speech on Thursday was the announcement of the election date. That's what really matters to the people of South Africa. The power to vote out a government that has stolen from them and hire one that will bring change. Change you can believe in, change that has already begun, and change that will build one South Africa for all. President Ramaphosa, 8th of May, watch that space. I thank you.